Terence Crawford has expressed his frustration over how certain private matters have been handled, particularly by Floyd Mayweather. Crawford's issue stems from sparring footage being leaked publicly, something he never expected from a person he once considered a friend. He explained that when someone claims to be cool with you, there are things they should never say or do in public, yet Mayweather's actions made him feel betrayed. Crawford emphasized that character plays a huge role in how far someone goes, and in his view, Floyd failed to show the type of respect that should come between two fighters who share a bond. He admitted that while they were once cool, during the build-up to the Errol Spence fight, and even when contracts were being finalized, Mayweather's behavior seemed fake. Crawford was disappointed because he values authenticity, and in his opinion, Mayweather's actions did not reflect good character. This frustration has fueled a larger discussion about Crawford's next steps in boxing. Promoter Eddie Hearn has offered his perspective, suggesting that Crawford should consider retirement. Hearn acknowledged Crawford's remarkable legacy. He has unified titles, conquered multiple weight divisions, and beaten elite fighters decisively. In Hearn's view, walking away at this peak moment would immortalize Crawford's career, much like other champions who retired at the top. However, Hearn also knows the modern boxing business well. With the rise of massive financial backing from Saudi Arabia and other investors, Crawford could earn record-breaking purses for marquee fights that might not even add to his legacy. For many fighters, the temptation of multi-million-dollar paydays can be hard to resist. Hearn made it clear that this is the delicate balance Crawford now faces. Retire as a legend untouched, or continue chasing money in an era where spectacle often drives the sport. Floyd Schofield also weighed in, saying Crawford should stop while ahead. Schofield's argument wasn't about questioning Crawford's ability or doubting his greatness. Instead, he argued that Crawford has already achieved everything a fighter could dream of, becoming pound-for-pound king, dominating opponents across several divisions, and proving himself against the best of his generation. For Schofield, continuing to fight only adds risk without reward. He respects Crawford too much to see him jeopardize what he has built. Still, he mentioned that if Crawford did fight again, it should be against younger, hungry contenders like Virgil Ortiz or Frank Martin. Schofield suggested that this generational clash would provide a real test and show whether Crawford can still match the fire of the new wave. But at the same time, he underlined that Crawford has nothing left to prove, and his record could remain flawless if he walked away now. While the debate about retirement continues, the fantasy fight that dominates fan discussions is Terence Crawford versus Floyd Mayweather. This matchup sparks endless arguments because both men represent peak mastery of boxing in their eras. Floyd was known for his defensive genius, his ability to control fights with unmatched ring IQ, and his discipline inside the ropes. Crawford, on the other hand, has proven himself to be a versatile destroyer, adapting mid-fight, switching stances seamlessly, and finishing opponents with clinical precision. The fantasy of these two colliding in their primes is one that boxing fans love to imagine, even though it will never happen in reality. Mayweather is long past his fighting prime, and Crawford belongs to the current generation. Still, people speculate on how such a matchup would unfold. Some argue that prime Floyd Mayweather, especially the early version nicknamed Pretty Boy Floyd, would have beaten Crawford. They point out that Floyd's speed, reflexes, and combination punching at his younger stage were almost impossible to deal with. Others, however, argue that the later version of Money Mayweather, who relied heavily on defense and a more passive style, would have been vulnerable to Crawford's aggression. They envision Crawford breaking down that defense, especially since even Manny Pacquiao managed to find moments of success against Floyd. Crawford's awkward style, switch hitting, and pressure would present problems Mayweather never had to deal with. This conversation always brings out statistics, but analysts caution that accomplishments on paper do not always translate directly into head-to-head superiority. Mayweather boasts 50 wins with no losses and victories over 23 world champions. Crawford has beaten 11 world champions, which seems fewer by comparison. But many fans argue that raw numbers don't define greatness. For example, Canelo Alvarez has beaten 18 former world champions, but Crawford dominated him decisively. A more accomplished resume doesn't always mean a fighter is better. What matters more is style, adaptability, and skill inside the ring. Crawford's abilities are unique. He has knockout power in both hands. He can fight orthodox or southpaw with equal effectiveness. He has top-tier footwork, allowing him to cut the ring off or evade when needed. He is also a master counterpuncher who knows how to fight at range or up close in the trenches. This makes him not just a great boxer, but a great fighter, someone capable of adjusting to any situation. In contrast, fighters like Shocker Stevenson are praised for their boxing ability, but many wonder if they can dig deep and fight when the situation demands. Crawford has already proven he can. When analysts compare Mayweather's list of opponents to Crawford's potential, many conclude that Crawford would have beaten most of the names Floyd faced. Mayweather fought Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez, Miguel Cotto, Marcos Maidana, and many others. But some believe Crawford's versatility and finishing instinct would have allowed him to handle all of them. The only possible challenge, they say, would have been someone like Gennady Golovkin at middleweight. Golovkin's size and power could have posed problems. Yet, even then, many argue that Crawford's ring IQ would have helped him compete strongly. Zab Judah, a former champion who faced Mayweather himself, has added his voice to the debate. Judah respects Mayweather's greatness, but also recognizes that Crawford is the standout fighter of today. For him, every era produces its king, and right now, that king is Crawford. Judah even reminded fans that Canelo Alvarez once stated Crawford might be better than Floyd. Coming from someone who has shared the ring with both men, that statement carries real weight. Judah emphasized that Crawford's dominance across multiple weight divisions, while carrying his power and composure, is rare. Unlike many fighters who lose effectiveness when moving up, Crawford has thrived at every step. Judah viewed this as a symbolic passing of the torch from one era to the next. Canelo's comments are especially significant because he has fought both Mayweather and Crawford. He clarified, however, that the situations were vastly different. Mayweather fought him when he was still young, raw, and had a rehydration clause disadvantage. Crawford, on the other hand, fought him when he was already a seasoned champion at super middleweight. Canelo believes this distinction matters because it highlights how timing influences outcomes. Crawford used this point to defend his victory while still respecting Floyd's achievement. He acknowledged that Floyd was the best in his era, just as he is the best in his own era. Jeff Mayweather, Floyd's uncle, also defended his nephew's legacy. He argued that people often overlook the context of Floyd's fight with Canelo. By that time, Floyd was no longer in his prime physically. He was 36 years old, relying more on experience and reflexes than speed. Yet he still dominated a young and dangerous Canelo. Jeff pointed out that while Canelo had many fights, he was still inexperienced at that level, and Floyd neutralized him completely. Comparing that Canelo to the older, more mature version Crawford fought is unfair, according to Jeff. He insisted that Floyd's win over Canelo was still an incredible feat, given the circumstances. Buddy MC Gert provided another perspective, praising Crawford's victory over Canelo. He explained that Crawford controlled every aspect of the fight, distance, pace, and exchanges. Canelo never had a chance to dictate terms, something he usually excels at. MC Gert compared Crawford's control to Floyd's, noting that both fighters neutralized their opponents, but Crawford adds his own twist by being more aggressive and willing to finish. To MC Gert, Crawford's win was not just a victory but a statement. He belongs in any conversation about the greatest technicians in boxing history. Despite these praises, MC Gert also said that Canelo is at a stage in his career where a rematch is unnecessary. In his opinion, Canelo has already fought everyone and accomplished everything. Losing to Crawford was a passing of the torch, and though a rematch could happen, it isn't needed. Crawford earned the win fairly, and Canelo no longer has anything to prove. Analysts also highlight the difference in charisma and business savvy between Floyd and Crawford. Mayweather was a global icon, loved and hated equally, who knew how to sell fights and keep fans engaged whether they wanted to see him win or lose. His undefeated streak carried enormous value in the market. Crawford, by contrast, has never been a huge pay-per-view draw. His appeal comes from pure skill, not from polarizing promotion. Some analysts argue this makes Crawford even more special, as his legacy is built on talent rather than theatrics. They also suggest that Crawford may even surpass Floyd in terms of natural fighting ability. His stance switching, range control, and finishing instinct make him a more dangerous package, while Floyd's style was based more on caution and defense. Crawford's style is more fan-friendly, even though it is just as effective. Ultimately, the debate over Crawford versus Mayweather remains unresolved, but what's clear is that Crawford's place in history is secure. Some argue Floyd's 50-0 record and global stardom make him untouchable. Others insist Crawford's dominance, adaptability, and achievements across divisions make him the true king. Zab Judah calls Crawford #1 in this generation. Canelo has even hinted that Crawford may be better than Floyd. Jeff Mayweather reminds everyone of context, insisting Floyd's wins came under tougher conditions. Buddy MC Gert praises Crawford's technical brilliance, saying he proved himself against Canelo in a way that cements his status. Eddie Hearn and Floyd Schofield debate whether Crawford should retire, with Hearn pointing to legacy and Schofield pointing to risk. Fans, meanwhile, continue to argue endlessly online about how a fantasy fight between the two would play out. Crawford himself takes a balanced stance. He respects Mayweather as the best of his time while declaring himself the best of his own era. He doesn't shy away from pointing out the differences in when each man fought Canelo, but he avoids disrespect. For him, it's about context, legacy, and recognition. While others debate endlessly, Crawford seems content knowing that his achievements already speak for themselves. As of now, Crawford's future remains uncertain. He could retire as a three-time undisputed champion and go down as one of the greatest ever. He could chase another belt at middleweight and attempt to become a six-division champion. Or he could accept one of the big money fights that promoters dangle, perhaps against hungry challengers like Virgil Ortiz or Jaron Ennis. Whatever he chooses, his legacy is untouchable. Fans may keep dreaming about a showdown with Mayweather, but in reality, the debate will remain just that, a debate fueled by admiration for two of the finest boxers to ever grace the sport.